The old Victorian house stood on a hill overlooking the town, its darkened windows like vacant eyes staring out at the world. Locals whispered stories about Blackwood Manor, tales of a family tragedy, a broken heart, and a lingering presence that refused to leave. They said the house held its secrets close, guarded by a chill that seeped into your bones and a feeling of being watched, even when you were alone. Sarah, a writer with a penchant for the macabre, had rented Blackwood Manor for a month, hoping to find inspiration for her next novel. Ignoring the warnings of the locals, she was drawn to the house's dark history, its air of mystery. The first few days were uneventful, a quiet settling in, exploring the dusty rooms, the antique furniture draped in white sheets like ghostly figures. But then, the whispers started. Faint at first. Like the rustling of leaves, they seemed to emanate from the empty hallways. Sarah dismissed them as her imagination, the old house settling, the wind whistling through cracked window panes. But the whispers grew louder, more distinct, sometimes sounding like her own name being called softly from the shadows. One evening, as a storm raged outside, Sarah sat in the library, a fire crackling in the hearth. The wind howled like a banshee, rattling the windows, and the house groaned under its assault. Suddenly, the temperature in the room plummeted, a coldness that seeped through her clothes and chilled her to the core. The fire in the hearth flickered and died, plunging the room into near darkness. Then she saw it. A figure, translucent and shimmering, standing by the window. It was a woman dressed in a long white gown, her face obscured by shadows. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Fear, raw and primal, gripped her. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure glided towards her, its movements fluid and silent. Sarah could feel the coldness emanating from it, a deathly chill that made her teeth chatter. As the figure drew closer, she could make out details: long dark hair that cascaded over her shoulders, pale skin, and eyes that seemed to glow with an eerie light. The woman raised a hand, reaching out to Sarah. Terror lent Sarah a burst of adrenaline. She stumbled back, knocking over a chair, the noise echoing through the silent house. She scrambled to her feet and fled the library, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't stop running until she reached her bedroom, slamming the door shut and locking it. She huddled under the covers, shivering, her mind racing. Had she imagined it? Was it just a trick of the light, her imagination running wild? But she knew what she had seen. The figure, the coldness, the whispers. It was all real. Blackwood Manor was haunted. The following days were a torment. Sarah stayed in her room, afraid to venture out. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, sometimes accompanied by the sound of weeping. She saw glimpses of the woman in white, in the hallway at the foot of her bed, reflected in the mirror. She researched the history of Blackwood Manor, desperate for answers. She discovered that the house had been the scene of a tragic love story. A young woman, Eliza Blackwood, had fallen in love with a man her family disapproved of. They had forbidden the union, and in despair, Eliza had taken her own life. Sarah realized that the woman in white was Eliza, her spirit trapped in the house, reliving her heartbreak for eternity. She felt a pang of sympathy for the tormented soul. One night, Sarah decided she couldn't live in fear any longer. She had to confront Eliza, to try to understand her pain. She went to the library, the place where she had first seen the apparition. The room was cold, the air thick with a sense of sadness. She stood in the center of the room and spoke, her voice trembling. "Eliza," she said, "I know you're here. I know your pain. I want to help you." A moment of silence followed. Then the figure appeared by the window just as before. But this time Sarah didn't run. She stood her ground, her heart pounding, but her gaze steady. Eliza glided towards her, her face still obscured by shadows. But as she drew closer, Sarah saw a tear roll down her cheek. Eliza reached out and Sarah took her hand. A wave of coldness washed over her, but it was different this time. It wasn't the chill of fear, but the chill of sorrow. She felt Eliza's pain, her despair, her longing for peace. Sarah spoke to Eliza, telling her that she understood, that she sympathized. She told her that it was time to let go, to find peace. As she spoke, the figure began to fade, becoming less distinct, less real. The coldness dissipated, replaced by a sense of calm. Eliza's spirit was finally at rest. The next morning, Sarah left Blackwood Manor. The house still stood on the hill, its windows still dark, but the air around it felt lighter. The oppressive weight of sadness lifted. Sarah had faced her fears, confronted the ghost of Blackwood Manor, and in doing so, had found a measure of peace herself. She left with a story, a chilling tale of love, loss, and the lingering presence of the past. A story that would haunt her dreams for years to come.